Welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I'm your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I'm joined by Daniel Andrlik for a game of Heart, the City Beneath. Daniel is the producer and game master for Explorers Wanted, a Numenera actual play podcast focused on exploration, intrigue, and friendship. You should absolutely check out Explorers Wanted. You can find more information about the show at explorerswanted.fm or check the show notes for more information. Heart, the City Beneath is a role-playing game about delving into a nightmarish undercity that gives you everything you've ever dreamed of or kills you in the process. It is funny, it is horrifying, it is exquisitely well done. You can find more information about Heart, the City Beneath at rowanrookanddeckard.com, or you can check the show notes for more information. Now, one important housekeeping update before we dive in, and that is, we're done for the year, everybody. With this episode, we are taking a couple weeks off. We are ending the 2022 season. We'll see you at Christmas for the Christmas special, but otherwise, we'll see you in 2023. If you're looking for more Party of One in the meantime, you can use this time to check out the backlog, or head to patreon.com/JeffStormer and check out Party of None, which is an actual-ish play podcast focused on single-player role-playing games. Otherwise, we'll see you next year. And finally, before we dive in, a few quick updates from present Jeff. Hey everybody, Twitter's not doing great. So, in case it stops being a thing and you follow the show on Twitter where you get updates about the show, here are a few other places you can follow the show just in case. We are on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. We've launched a show Tumblr at partyofonepod.tumblr.com. Or you can head to buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast and sign up for our newsletter, where we'll be sharing new episodes, behind-the-scenes stuff, award nominations, all that kind of thing. Those are all the ways that you can keep up with the show in case Twitter stops being a thing, like, in a week or whatever. Relatedly, if you are interested in coming on the show's guest and you don't have a pressing need, like if you have a Kickstarter or something, please email us. But like if you're just kind of like, hey, I'd like to play a game at some point, it doesn't need to be now, it doesn't need to be soon, just some point, head to partyofonepodcast.com. We also reopened our guest application form. Again, if Twitter stops being a thing, I don't want to lose the ability to like interact with people, engage interest in guests. So if you're interested, that's where to go. And finally, an ad, because they pay the bills. If you've listened to any of this show, you've probably gathered that I have at least a passing appreciation of comic books. That's probably not news for you. So when I heard that there was a new Hayao Miyazaki book, you can imagine my excitement. Shuna's Journey is an epic tale about a prince's quest to save his land with golden grain. It's a Hayao Miyazaki book, right? Like, I don't have to say a lot more than that. Kiki's Delivery Service, My Neighbor Totoro, Spirited Away, Castle Cagliostro, which is legitimately one of my favorite movies ever made. This book is available in English for the first time. If you like any of his work, and I love all of his work a lot, this is a pretty cool thing. It's a pretty cool book. I am pretty excited about it. It's been getting great reviews. Guillermo del Toro said it is a story that is at once eternal and fresh, and that's also a guy that I trust. If the guy that made Hellboy says a thing is cool and also it's by Hayao Miyazaki, I'm sold. Anyway, if you want to learn more, go to bit.ly/Shuna's Journey. That's bit.ly/SHUNASJOURNEY. It is also available wherever books are sold. And with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am so excited to be sitting down with Daniel Andrlik. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am very excited. I am excited to be playing this game today. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've got a character today that I'm very excited to play. But before we dive into that, why don't you take a moment to let our lovely listeners at home know about anything you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the producer and game master for Explorers Wanted. It's a Numenera actual play podcast. We've been going for, I think, 2.5 years at this point, releasing weekly, and it's a lot of fun. It's a game about exploration, intrigue, and friendship, and all the horror you find in between.
Love it. Great pitch. I feel like I've come to appreciate a good pitch, especially sitting on this side of the microphone for as long as I have, and I always have to shout it out when I hear it. I am really excited. This week we are playing Heart, the City Beneath. It's a game that I've wanted to play on the show for a very long time. It is a game that is extremely cool and flavorful and weird and horrific in all the ways that I love, and so I am profoundly excited to go underneath a weird elven city and find some horrific things.
Well, I've got plenty of that in store for you for sure.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the setting at a high level, and then I'll introduce my character, and we'll kick off the story.
Sure.
So give us the 10,000-foot pitch of Heart in a nutshell.
Yeah. So underneath the Spire, which is the most massive monolith of ancient knowledge known to this in this fantasy world we're playing in, but beneath it is the Heart, the city beneath. It's believed that the Heart is the source of all these strangeness throughout the Spire above. The Heart, there's different theories about what it could be. Maybe it's a sleeping god, maybe it's something else. But the important thing to know is that the Heart can be almost anything for anyone. It desperately wants to give you whatever your character wants, even if it kills you. It's a red, wet heaven deep beneath the earth, where you might even encounter alien skies and who knows what, as the Heart desperately, twistedly tries to give you what you want.
That's, like I said, that's a good ass pitch is frankly how I will describe it. I am excited. I have made a character. We have talked a little bit about the scenario that we're going to be playing through, but I will introduce my character. With that in mind, I have been on an expedition. Today I am playing a high elf curator by the name of Pale Green Things Peeking Through the Grass, or Pale Green for short. He, his pronouns. Pale Green is a high elf. They are the denizens of the Spire above. They are the rich aristocracy. And I think in his old life above, he and his family, Pale Green and his family, were the upper crust of the upper crust. They were, to put it bluntly, the worst of the worst. And I think as my background being, or my ancestry being a high elf, I have a few questions that I will kind of walk through. I still wear a mask. I have an ancestral mask, and given my character's very particular obsession, my mask is sort of, picture like a World War I gas mask where it's just big and bulky and it's got the ventilator hanging down. And the thing that differentiates it is it's got a bunch of like studs and gears and latches and sort of slots that slot into very specifically like the eye holes so that you can plug in different lenses and magnifying lenses and eye pieces and eye glasses. It is this one decorative area in this very like mechanical looking gas mask, which I wear because, you know, breath ruins the books. My character has a particular book obsession.
Okay, cool. Did you bring any books with you then into the Delve?
I did. I am wearing a great deal of books on my person. One of my abilities that I took, which I will go over in a moment, was walking reliquary, where I am adorned with an enormous amount of like trinkets and bobs, and I picture all of them as various books and pamphlets and manifestos and tiny little like pocket Bibles and larger books that are like hanging on leather straps, and I am like festooned with books like a walking library.
Like those Christmas ornaments that are like little miniature books.
Yeah, I've got all shapes and sizes. Some of them are like three card pamphlets. Some of them are little Christmas ornament books. Some of them are full size, like Lord of the Rings size tomes. It's very cumbersome, and I kind of I don't jingle when I walk, but I do like markedly. I have the sound when I walk of like, if you've ever heard just like a mob of, I sound like 14 people walking on a hardwood floor. It's just a mountain of thumps and bumps as I walk around.
Okay, perfect. I love that.
My family name was ruined due to a cataclysmic social faux pas. books are my family legacy. This is sort of where my obsession comes from. And the faux pas that ruined my family's name was one very particular ruinous book club. They recommended an unpopular text for their book club that sparked a disastrous dinner party for which there were multiple fatalities.
Wow.
And thus they are no longer welcome in the city above.
Yeah. Very cool.
I have been kind of obsessed with restoring the finding that one truly ancient like text that is going to like, I say restore the beauty of my family name, but even I at this point know better and think that it's really just that I want to shove it in the faces of the people that have pissed me off.
Okay.
And obviously, like I've alluded to it, but the one luxury that I cling to that keeps me centered is my books. These are old. All of them are old and ornamental, and they are very obviously like the books of various wealthy people that I have like absorbed into a collection.
Absorbed with quotes around it.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
And so my calling is enlightenment. The impossible thing I am attempting to achieve in the city beneath is enlightenment, being that like I have to prove something impossible. I am looking for secrets within the earth. I know the heart holds the answers to my questions, and no matter what it takes, I will get them. And like I said, I am looking for a book, something old, ancient, powerful. I don't know the specifics of it. I just know that there is like there are texts buried in the heart by people that ventured down there, wrote down their findings, and then never came back. And I'm hoping to find like a text that is so old, so ancient, that provides some kind of answer that I can use to really shove it in their goddamn faces.
Okay.
The first step on my journey, and this bleeds nicely into my class, which I'll talk about next, is I commissioned is really the best way to describe it. I commissioned an expedition into the heart. I hired a bunch of hunters. I brought together the best of the best, and we embarked on a journey into the heart. And Daniel, can you tell me briefly what happened to that expedition?
Oh, man. So you're turning this around me because I actually had some questions for you.
Please. Okay. Okay. Well, then hit me.
Okay. So I have a question. So you came down here, and I'm going to say you came down with 3 people.
3 people. Got him.
The first one was Thrushes in the Meadow, and that also a high elf. And he had one habit that you found incredibly annoying. Like, what was the thing that drove you crazy about this individual while you were on the delve?
A loud chewer.
Ooh.
Just
cool.
Like, just ate loud and like ate big and like ate, flecks of crumb and food scattered about. And it was just, it was the kind of tiny little detail that specifically drives Pale Green up a wall.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and so as Thrushes in the Meadow, sorry, I turned the page there. Thrushes in the Meadow, as you were coming through a network of tunnels, and the tunnels became almost like flesh walls. And as he leaned against the wall, he began sinking into it, like it was absorbing him and consuming him. And you and your companions tried to cut him free, but that only seemed to speed his descent until finally he was just gone.
Love it.
Kala was your second companion. And she had a particular trait. It wasn't necessarily annoying, but it was something that that for whatever reason, you will always associate her in your mind with this behavior. What was it?
Kala loved knife games. Like if we were sitting, I think we had a cart that we had to abandon, and if we were sitting on the cart, she'd put her hand on the wall and do the kind of knifey stabby game, or if we were walking, she would flip knives between her fingers. She had a trick where she would throw up a knife and catch it with her teeth perfectly every time. It was frankly baffling. We were all certain that she was gonna slash her cheek open at some point, and every single time it was flawless. Which, how do you even teach that as a skill? How is that? How did she not have scars on her face? But like perfect, without ever missing a beat, was able to just like catch it, and really was extremely proud of that specific trick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Makes perfect sense for her, which is what made her departure even more strange, because that one you didn't see. You guys woke up one night about midway before now, and she wasn't on her bedroll, and you found tracks that led to this underground lake of ochre-colored water, but no sign of her.
And who is our third crew member?
And Martin, tell me, how did Martin come to his end?
Martin, I think this was about when we abandoned the cart. I think it was a little ways after this, the cart kind of got stuck. We kind of had to leave the cart and go by foot. And it was really just Martin and I. And what happened was, we came to a fork, and Martin was our navigator, and with absolute certainty pointed us in what we thought was the correct direction, pointed us down this left most passage, and I let him take the lead, and he got maybe 3 steps before before like fleshy tendrils just vivisected him. And it was so unlike the others where it was either like largely unseen, like Thrushes in the Meadow kind of sunk into a wall and like Kala was just gone, like Pale Green witnessed this very specifically and took the right tunnel, frankly.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so that's your crew. And I know you're just about to talk about your class. And leading into your class, I want to ask you a question to start with it before we get into the mechanics.
Yeah.
And that is, you came very close to death. I mean, during this delve. I mean, so I guess the question, and you are still followed by an echo of that death that only you see or hear. And I'd like you to tell me, what does your death look like?
Collapsing in exhaustion in an endless Mobius loop of heart tunnels, wandering for weeks in, circles and backtracks, and just an endless cycle, what feels like there's no turn that you can take that doesn't drop you right back off where you started, until finally exhaustion and dehydration just gets to you and just collapsing. And that's part of it. That's part of what it looks like, and that's part of what I think like this echo looks like, but it's not all of it. And I think that the echo that like truly like lingers and kind of follows Pale Green as much as the physical death is, it is 1,000 faces of 1,000 aristocratic high elves shrugging and moving on with their day in an instant. It is dinner party laughter and a slight gasp and then a change in topic.
Oh, wow. Oh, God, I love that. That's awesome.
I thought of that and it really stuck with me, and I was like, we're going for it, especially for this particular character.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, so tell us a little bit about the classic character so people understand what this beautiful little fiction that we've created around it means mechanically.
Yeah, so I am playing a dead walker. I died. I died out here in the heart, but somehow through willpower, luck, or trickery, I stayed alive. I am back. My tattered soul has given me a near unique ability to step between the lands of the living and dead with relative ease, and my constant companion, a spectral manifestation of the death it didn't take, guards me jealously and whispers secrets from beyond the veil into my ear while I slumber. So I am still on this hunt, and there is something about this hunt for this object that, like, I am still obsessed with, and not even death could keep me away from wandering these tunnels. And eventually, I don't know how long it's been, but eventually I just woke up and suddenly looked just to my left and saw a tunnel that I hadn't seen before that led me out of this sort of hellish Mobius loop.
Okay. Very cool.
And with that is my character. So I believe that is where we pick up with the story.
Yes.
So I will hand this over to you and say, take the wheel. And then when it comes time to start rolling dice, we'll talk through the mechanics. But I think that is where we pick up is Pale Green wandering these tunnels alone. His crew that he paid very good money for the record. It was not cheap. Have lost to the winds and trapped in this sort of desperate mission that he is on the hunt for.
Yeah. So you are been wandering through these tunnels. Thankfully, you've gotten away from what looked like the Fleshwall tunnels, or even the Mobius tunnels that you were in. These are looking a little bit more natural, in terms of being more like, dark rock, things like that. There are crystalline structures sticking out from the ceiling. The odd thing about them, though, is that there's this sort of viscous dripping fluid from them. Doesn't smell very good. It smells actually like a little bit like pus. Like almost like somehow like these were infected wounds, even though it's clearly stone.
The thing that I like here is, or the thing I like about that detail, it tells me that my gas mask like doesn't block smells, and that like that makes it not a very really effective gas mask. And I think that is perfect because it is this like, it's really just, I think, to redirect my breathing away from a book that I'm reading. So like all of the smells and muck and disease is still like seeping in, and I'm just like, it's just this terrible little ceremonial like breath tunnel.
Yeah, it's really sort of like a very elaborate mask for what something that's really sort of like a step below an N95 mask. Okay, cool. So the book that you have, like, that brought you on this delve, like, you're actually following a lead. You're very, very lost right now, but you're following a lead. There is a book that has been discussed as supposedly being held somewhere down in this direction. You got some intelligence from a blood witch, which you're not used to trusting, but you're in the heart, and sometimes you just have to make do. But the book you're looking for, is titled Carnival's End.
Carnival's End.
And it's significant because there are rumors, you've heard stories of people essentially ensnared by carnival dancing. The people that this group goes through, and people become helpless except to dance for the rest of their life with this group, regardless of what it does to their body.
Oh, that feels like the worst possible thing for Pale Green to be hunting for, because there's like, I think that I think at this point especially, I think Pale Green has like abandoned the illusion that I think maybe he departed on this to be like, I'm going to find this object and, bring to light like its secrets and its magic. And now like the spitefulness and the bitterness is seeping in, and it's full on like, like people have wronged me and I am not about to tolerate it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But hopefully, maybe it's the kind of thing that it could be a discovery to kind of help you try to get back. But like you said before, you don't know if that's just you lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So you've been going through these tunnels now. It's been days. You haven't seen another living thing in far too long, which is, of course, a concern because you guys had been on a delve for a long time anyway, and rations are starting to get harder and harder. You're having to really ration them out. And you reach a point in the tunnels where there is this strange like opening. It's almost like the ceiling suddenly juts up, so like you're inside of a more massive cavern inside of the tunnels, but it sort of dead ends around. The walls are, they seem to be studded with tiny stones, all along them. And in the center of this circle, which is probably about like a 15-foot diameter, is just this one little, like, not little, wrong word, but like this waist high spike. And then these walls leading up.
I think I want to like walk kind of around this circle, and as I do that, like jab at the stones that are making the circle and like see if there are markings on the stones and see if there's anything that I can pull from that to understand, like, A, what's going to happen if I try to walk into this circle, and B, what this spike is intended for, and if I could if I could use it, if it's useful to me.
Okay, cool. So as you're kind of walking around the circle, I mentioned all these like pebbles that were on the walls that were jutting out, things like that. As you're walking along the wall and looking a little closer, you see that those pebbles are actually like broken teeth. Of various sizes, probably from multiple different types of animals. And they all seem to be kind of like they're part of the structure of this exterior wall. The spike itself seems perfectly smooth, although you get the sense of there's almost like a waviness to the air above it.
Now, I have a resource that's going to drive what might be a very unwise action, but it's the right action for this character, especially with the weird justification that I have given Pale Green for having this item. I have a bag of scavenged teeth.
Okay.
And I think in particular, especially since Pale Green is not like a long time dead walker and like hasn't been like walking among the dead for very long, I like the idea that this bag of teeth is just tying into like Pale Green's latest literary obsession, which is like weird medical books. And has just started collecting weird teeth. So what I want to ask you, could I attempt to pluck one or a few of these teeth off of the wall and stash them in this bag to add to my collection?
Ooh. Yes, but I want to make you roll for it because I have some fun ideas for consequences if it goes wrong.
I very much want to roll for it. I think this will be very, very fun.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I am gonna say this is going to be so basically the way it works in Heart is you're gonna build a dice pool. And your dice pools are based off of D10s. So you'll have one D10 to start. This situation, this part of the heart that you're in, I would classify as sort of, you could argue cursed or Warren's. So if you have one of those domains, you'll get another D10. If you have a skill that you want to propose that you think would help, that would give you another D10. This is a standard action, so it's not going to, so whatever you've got will determine your dice pool.
Got it. Okay. I'm trying to decide. I don't think any of my skills, I have Delve and Discern, and I don't think necessarily either of those is going to pull into this moment in terms of like skills. I also don't have Warren or Wild. And let me look at my abilities. My ability's also not terribly helpful here. You know what? Actually, there is an ability that I want to use here. Okay. Just to use it and be, no, I was tempted to use my unorthodox methods and just claim a 6, but I think I'm more interested in the potential for failure than I am taking that 6, and I want to maybe save that result for later. Okay. So I'm gonna roll this 1d10 and see what happens.
Okay.
That is a 5. I should have taken that 6.
Okay. Yeah. So you are working against this tooth, trying to pull it out, and your tool slips, and you realize that the edges of this teeth are almost razor sharp. So you cut your hand against it as your hand slips. So could you roll me 1d4?
Yes, indeed. That is a 1.
Okay. So that is 1 stress to blood.
Okay.
So you two have different resistances, and you might have certain protections or things like that. But
so that's 1. Yeah, I do have 2 protection to supplies because of all of my books, but I'm going to take 1 stress to blood.
Mm-hmm. And since it's only, so it's 1 stress, we still need to roll for fallout. So anytime that you take stress in this game, the less stress you have built up, the better. Because every time you take stress, I'll roll a d12. If I roll your stress total or lower, you'll receive fallout, which will get rid of the stress, but will have some other consequence, which may or may not be good.
Okay.
So,
and that's total. Is that total stress? Is that total stress by the resistance? So is that just for blood, or is that all added together?
So it's very ambiguously worded in the book. I always base it off of the resistance track.
Got it. Okay.
For that
cool.
type. Okay. I rolled an 8, so no fallout. But you do cut yourself pretty badly against this. It's a nasty cut.
And I think I am immediately. I am not inclined to be okay if taking this cut. I think I immediately get antsy is how I would describe it. I think I get antsy and impatient and frustrated the second that the cut happens, and I react to it in a way that is like more angry and more upset than it should be even for like the nasty cut that it is. Like I am flailing a little bit and cursing and shouting until I finally snap back into like, it's fine, whatever, it is what it is.
Okay, cool. Well, now what do you do?
I think I'm gonna go poke around at this spike and see what I can find. If I, no, I think that pale green would go and like investigate the spike. I think as a curator and scholar, I think that it is my obligation to understand this. This could be, even before I find Carnival's End, my true calling. This could be another great discovery to add to my manuscript when all is said and done. Okay, cool. So you approach this thing. The air above it, like as you get closer, you can see that sort of waviness in the air above it. Just, it's very strong. I mean, it's like looking across. It's like looking across sand dunes on like over 100 degrees. And is there a gap at the top of the spike, or is the heat just emanating off of the spike itself?
I think looking closely, it appears that it's emanating off the top of the spike itself, but oddly, you don't see any sign of like warping or score marks or anything like that. Like the tip does not, it's not like the tip appears hot. It's almost like the air, like for everywhere it touches the tip and up, is hot, but there's nothing about the structure itself that seems warm or even particularly designed to be warm.
Could I make a roll to see if I understand if there's any significance about this? If there's anything in my old notes about what this could look like, and start to more aggressively, I guess, as we establish stakes, which is step 1, I guess, like putting out my action as well as the potential stakes that follow from it, like start to mess with this thing or start to kind of like fall back on my training and my knowledge and my readings to see if I can spot what exactly, like, what the significance of a spike like this is and how one would interact with it. Yeah,
this definitely feels like an occult domain topic. And there are a couple different skills that you could argue for it. Like if you had like delve or discern, or if you had other ideas too, I'm open to that too.
Those are the two skills that I have, so those were going to be the two that I was going to argue for, so that feels perfect. So I think with those, so I'm going to roll 3d6 here, or 3d10, and take the high result.
Yep.
It is a 5, an 8, and a 5, so the high result is an 8.
Okay, excellent. So with an 8, you succeed, you don't take any stress, everything goes just the way you hoped it would. This is definitely connected to the rest of this structure. The heat here seems to be like, you're not sure exactly how this heat is coming up. It is definitely either occult or like far advanced technology, one of the two. May not be a distinction with a difference to you. But it is definitely tied, like something about this room is dictated by that warmth, and you start thinking that actually what's supposed, like that heat is there not just to emit, but it's almost like you get the feeling of like an incinerator.
Mm-hmm. But if there's an incinerator, that means that if this is here to be an incinerator, that means that there must be things to incinerate, and or it means that the correct way to go is away from it. Are there any slots or like entry points for things to go into the incinerator?
You don't see any slots per se. There are definitely like seams, but no receptacles. You got the impression that basically like if somebody was going to like put something in this, they would be putting it directly into the heat. Almost like it burns whatever it needs for fuel.
Right. Yeah. So then I think that the next thing that I am looking for is scanning the floors and any paths around these stones to see if there are, because obviously if this thing exists to burn things, then someone would have, in Pale Green's estimation, somebody would have come here to burn something. So I think Pale Green is starting to like scan the floors to see if there are footsteps leading to the incinerator, because if there are footsteps leading towards the incinerator, then there will be footsteps leading away from it, which will lead towards things that need to be incinerated, which tend to be, I think Pale Green is monologuing this to himself. If there are footsteps leading towards the incinerator, there will be footsteps leading away, which means someone will be carrying things that can be incinerated, such and like falls backwards away from it after realizing that he is covered in extremely flammable paper.
Yeah, awesome. And I think if you look around, I mean, there are obviously like some stray rocks and things on the ground. The thing that I think you find most significant as you fall down, you probably, possibly like your hand where you hurt yourself accidentally bumps against it. So you're a little extra sensitive, and that's why you notice it, is a molar just lying free on the ground.
Oh, I'm studying the hell out of this molar.
The molar looks like it probably came from some sort of humanoid, probably something that's like bulkier than an elf or a high elf. Could be a gnoll, could be something else, but you don't think it's elven, but it is humanoid.
I'm going to take this and hold it in my hand and look at this wall. And I'm going to flick the molar towards the incinerator.
So you flick the molar towards the incinerator. It goes in. The molar is immediately vaporized, but then all around the walls, you see a bunch of these teeth of roughly the same shape and design as the molar. Not exactly, but almost like they must have come from the same animal. All like suddenly jut out on tiny pillars of stone. And you suddenly got like almost like a halfway staircase / like jungle gym bars leading halfway up these walls.
Oh, I'm staring at my hand for a very long time before I start to climb this jungle gym, because it does not feel great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm looking at I think for the first time in Pale Green's life, he is looking at all of these books and lets out like a long sigh before his uncut hand grabs one of these pillars, and he starts to kind of awkwardly, the kind of rock climbing that someone who has never rock climbed in his entire life is trying to simultaneously do it while carrying about like 150 pounds worth of novellas,
Hmm.
is just making his way up this wall as gracefully as he can.
Hmm. Okay. And these stairways like lead you about halfway up these walls. You can see that halfway up, which was a little harder to see from the angle before, but you can see there is an opening for a tunnel up above. The rest, obviously, you still got about halfway to get up these walls somehow. But that tunnel is there. That seems to be a way out of this particular area.
Then, what I am going to do, sitting at the top of these stairs, uh, this has to be on. This is unorthodox methods, and it feels right to use this ability here as I describe unorthodox methods.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I do just want to roll for it. I want to roll for it because I have this resource, and it would be wrong of me not to use it in this moment, as I very literally describe using it.
Uh-huh.
I am reaching into this bag of teeth that I have gathered as medical curiosities,
Mm-hmm.
and just flicking teeth in the direction of the incinerator and seeing if one of them causes a similar reaction.
Yeah, and it definitely like one of them goes in and there's only like a slight movement in the walls, but then the other two go in, and there's more of these shook, shook, shook as these teeth come out on these bars, and you now have a path all the way up to the top. You only had to lose 3 of those teeth.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to climb the rest of the way up towards this tunnel.
Okay, so you come up to this tunnel, and it's a
Huffing
very
and wheezing and just sweaty and gross.
yeah, for sure. And as you're coming up, I mean, it's a rock tunnel, but you feel a breeze, and a breeze that you smell. You smell plants. You smell grass.
Well, that's lovely. I think idly, I think that I have to use this trinket because I have it, and I have to at least to describe using it before anything else. I take out my fan. I have a fan, and I start fanning myself, and I take out a little spritz bottle, and I kind of lower my mask, and I spritz my face a few times, and it does not spritz water, because obviously you won't want water near the books. It could destroy the paper. That is absurd. Right. It is a tiny mist of like it is like an almost microscopic mist of like dry ice particles. So you just get these little spots of ice sort of like land on my face and kind of like they probably burn a little bit. Like I probably like you get a little bit of the burning, and then I kind of like fan, and the ice particles just like drift off as they dry up, and then I readjust my mask and I put everything away, and I just completely idly, as though everything were fine, make my way towards this grassy smell.
Okay, that's awesome. See, now you've cursed yourself, Jeff, because you're definitely going to need to find Foley of a fan for that.
Great. Love it.
So you are going down this tunnel, and you notice that as you're moving, that smell of grass is getting stronger, and you also hear a very faint dripping sound.
I immediately stiffen up. I think Pale Green gets... Despite everything, I think Pale Green gets aggressively defensive the second that he hears dripping, because you don't want to get water on the books. It would damage the paper. That would be absurd. And right. I think starts to very cautious, like with an abundance of caution, more caution than the dripping water probably deserves, continues to make his way down the tunnel, kind of hunching his back a little bit as all of his books and pamphlets like dangle down beneath him, is like is making his way forward, kind of hunched down in a defensive pose.
Okay, cool. So as you're approaching, you can see that up ahead, these tunnels open up into what appears to be like a little glade in a forest just beyond, which is odd. More odd that the sky itself here seems to be like purple with lines of like a light, like blue running through it, kind of like if you're thinking about the reflection of water on the bottom of a pool. And there is a figure that seems to be lying at the edge of the cave. Definitely could be an elf, could be somebody else. It's not 100% sure from this distance. And they are just laying there at the opening, and they seem to be, but there seems to be a bunch of things stuck in them, like almost like 13 knives. And as you get a little bit closer, you definitely recognize this body as Kala.
Aha. How recently has she passed?
So that's the weird thing. She's staring up the ceiling, and occasionally her eyes are flicking around, but otherwise she's not moving. And while there is blood pooled on the ground, some of these knives there seem to be like she doesn't seem, there's not as much blood as you would expect for this many knives. And so you would say, oh, maybe somebody killed her and moved her, except that her eyes keep flicking around.
I'm going to use one of my abilities here. What domain am I in right now?
You are in wild.
Okay. So then I am using echoes. My soul is out of position, and it being, I think this ties very nicely into that vision of death, right? Because like I said, like part of it was seeing the future and seeing the rest of the world and the reaction and the lack of caring. I think it being that sort of jumbled cross-time thing, I see echoes, like the vision of the gray, the world beyond, between life and death that I see is sort of out of time. And so if I focus and concentrate, I can witness ghostly recreations of the past in my current location. So I'm gonna roll discern plus domain. So I'm rolling discern I have as a skill, so I'm gonna roll 2d10 plus my domain, which I don't have, so that'll be 2d10 to see what I can see and if I accrue stress in doing so.
Okay.
That is a 6 and a 5, so I'm going to succeed and take some stress.
Okay. Roll me a d4.
All right. That is again a 1.
Okay. So you're going to take 1 to echo.
Got it.
And there's my d12. Okay, I rolled a 1.
All right. Let's take some fallout.
So fallout. It's echo. Ooh. Oh, that's good. That was major fallout. I didn't want that.
I am glad that we confirmed that before it happened, because I imagine that would have been bad.
Yeah. Let's see here. I think you suddenly notice, so you're used to those visions of the future, like of after your death, things like that. But you notice something odd. You can see that imagery of the imagined thing, but also you see a strange, more familiar echo in some ways of people at that dinner party. At that faux pas, the reaction to the book that was selected, the moment when your family lost their standing. And that seems to keep repeating again and again in your vision.
That's really good. I think what I see, I think the thing that hits that is hitting for me,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that is lingering, is I see myself laughing and gushing and rambling about this book. Because I think I was there, right? I think that when I think I'm thinking about my family, I think it was like myself, my brother, and my father, and I'm gushing and rambling, and I think that like I see that like I am making myself the center of attention, and like whether or not that's exaggerated or whether or not it's there, like I think Pale Green is seeing very much that like it wasn't necessarily my family that like insisted on this book and gushed about it and like put together this disastrous. I think that first beat where things first went wrong is squarely on Pale Green's shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I love that. So that's your fallout.
Mm-hmm.
There are other echoes that you see of what happened here. And you see Kala coming to this edge, just dripping water, already with like 5 knives in her and a bag. And she took out of her bag, one at a time, each of these other knives and carefully, like with this distant look in her eye, stabbed herself one at a time until she finished all 13 and then lay down.
So seeing that, I think the thing to do is first go up to Kala and confirm that whether or not she is alive or recently dead.
Mm-hmm. So as you come up, her eyes like flick to look at you directly. There's not really any expression in them. It's just like they immediately start tracking your movement. And I think you can tell that she is still breathing.
In that case, I am going to, one by one, painfully, slowly, like carefully, with a sort of skill that I do not have. I think this feels like the time to use unorthodox methods, especially since I don't have the skills. I don't have the kinds of skills that would come in handy here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what this looks like, the unorthodox method here, is what's the best way? Surgery by open book surgery is, I guess, the best way to describe it.
Okay.
I think it is like I fiddle with everything. I find like a book on like emergency first aid.
Okay.
And I think like the unorthodox method is like reading a step, doing a step, but like I think what makes it unorthodox is that the procedure I'm doing is not like it's not applying a suture, right? Like it's not just like closing or sealing a wound so that it stops the bleeding. I am like teaching myself stitches and like advanced surgery on the fly. And I think that there is this particular book is interspersed with like essays. And I am like reading the essays and like walking around reading them in between removing knives to be like, okay, this is an essay on the importance of ethics in filing. I really should read this to make sure that if I have to file this later, I'm following this book to the letter, but it is a book that is as much tied up in the legalities of medical care as it is in here's how to remove 13 knives from someone.
Okay, perfect. Um, okay, so the first thing that you'll discover that you are taking a 6, but there are some things that are unavoidable. As soon as a knife comes out, she starts bleeding very profusely from that spot. But you're able to, sloppily, because you're trying to do it like for the first time reading a book, and you have to do it quickly, trying to stem the flow of blood. And one of the things that you notice is that something like you've gotten through like 2 knives at this point, when you notice like every time you pull out a knife, there's almost this sense of anger in your hand, like almost like the knife is angry. And go ahead and roll me a D4 for your stress on this.
That's a 4.
Okay, so you're going to take 4 to mind.
All right.
I'm going to roll for fallout. That's a 9, so you're good there.
And after I am done with this, we'll try to mend some of this mind. But that's a roll for later.
Yeah. And the hard part too about Heart is that you can only mend at havens. So if you're on the delve, you're basically stuck with it until you can get somewhere safe.
All right. Well, then never mind.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So, but you feel like you're making progress. You're keeping her from dying. And because you're making progress and you're alert, you notice when her right hand slips up to her side, pulls one of the knives free, and seems to be getting ready to stab you with this just blank expression on her face.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I don't like this.
Yeah.
I think the thing to do here is I hate Pale Green a whole lot, and it makes me very, very happy to be playing this character. Like I know what he's gonna do here.
Yeah.
I think it's throwing aside one of these knives and pulling out his ritual blade and attempting like a quick on guard disarm. Ooh,
okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so that is going to be you could argue a couple different things here for your it's probably kill.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say you could argue either occult or wild for the domain.
I'll take occult here. I have occult, so I'll go with that. I think that this is, and now that I can sense that it's like a hateful knife, I think that it makes sense too. Even if it's just like I've read about, I've read plenty of ghost stories, and I know that the best thing to do is to I think that Pale Green has the exact reaction that everybody kind of has when they read like a haunted object short story, which is like, well, why wouldn't you just throw that in a lake and be done with it? I think yeah. Has that kind of smug reaction of like, well, then I will simply be rid of the knife and then we will be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm rolling 2d10. I also have my ritual blade, which is an additional d6.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So I have a 6, a 9, and a 1. So that is a 9.
Okay, cool. So you are definitely going to succeed. So your knife is a D6, you said, right?
Yeah.
So roll me 1d6 for the stress that you do.
All right. That is a 6.
Okay, very nice. So you knock one of these blades away, and in the process, I don't think you're trying to kill her, right? You're just
no. I'm trying to destroy. I'm trying to get not maybe if not destroy the knife, get it out of the equation.
Okay, so you knock that knife out of her hand successfully, and you can see like her whole body sort of staggers a bit there, and then she pulls out another blade and comes swinging at you with that blade. So you're definitely going to want to do like an evade plus occult, evade plus wild, something like that to try to see if you can avoid getting hit here.
All right, we'll take evade plus occult, which will be 2d10 because I don't have evade, but I do have occult. I think this is just plain old cowardice. I think that once the second knife, I think like Pale Green in his mind was going to like effortlessly bat the knife away, and that was going to be the thing that was going to get Kala back on his side. And the second knife, then it's just running. It's just sort of running in a circle.
Okay.
There is no glory in this evasion. It is simply be away from knife distance at all times.
Okay.
But that is a 6 and a 9. Nice. And that is a 9. So that, I'm just, even it like this is an inglorious success, but it is nonetheless a success of just like jumping and dodging and sort of like squirming away from these knives.
Right. And I should have mentioned this should have been a risky thing, but I didn't say it at the beginning, so we're going to treat it just like a normal. We can
absolutely retroactively treat it as risky. That's fine by me.
Okay, cool. So risky means you remove the highest dice from the pool. So I think that's still success though, right?
That is a success with stress, yeah.
Okay. Roll me 1d6.
All right. That is 4.
That is 4 to blood.
Okay, that puts me up to 5 blood.
Okay, I'm going to roll for fallout. That is a 1.
Oh, that is 5. That is 4 under my my stress.
Yeah.
Or no, it is 3 under. No, yeah, I didn't clear my blood stress before, so that is 4 under stress.
Yes. So cool. So it's only going to be a minor blood fallout, and then it will clear all your blood fallout. Incidentally, you should clear your echo fallout too, since you took your echo stress rather.
Yep.
You managed to dodge out of the way, but you just climbed all this way carrying all these books. I think you're winded.
100%.
So, like, basically what that'll mean is that the next time you attack with your ritual knife, you'll be down 1 dice size for its amount of stress that it does.
Got it.
Okay, what would you like to do? You can keep running around in circles. You could try to attack. You could try to do something completely different. You could try running away. You could do any of those things.
I think I have to at least try. I have to at least try and get these knives away and try to bring back Kala. I recognize that I owe this to her.
Okay.
So cool. I am going to take my blade, and it worked last time, so on guard.
Okay, cool. So once again, that is going to be kill plus occult, and it's going to be risky. So you'll build your dice pool, then whatever you roll, take the highest die away.
And I am rolling d8s instead of d10s as I try to do this.
No, that'll be for the amount of stress that you.
Oh, for the amount of stress.
You hit.
Got it. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, perfect. Yep. Then I am rolling 2d10. That's not good. That's a 4 and a 3. The 4 goes away, which leaves me with a 3.
Ooh, yeah, that is rough.
That's not good. Okay,
so it could have been worse. I mean, you could have failed and taken double stress.
That's true. That is true.
So you come in to get at her, and she kind of like dodges around and swings. So go ahead and roll me a d6.
That is a 1, thankfully.
Okay. So that is 1 blood stress as she kind of nicks you as you attempt to get her and miss.
All right.
And so the other thing about Heart is that there's no like proper initiative order. Like it's just sort of narrative. So like she essentially did her thing by responding to you. So it's up to you what you want to do next. But if you take too long, I'll have her do something.
I think the plan here is I can't outfight her. This is what she is trained to do, and this is why we hired her. And I know this, and I got lucky with the first one. It's not going to work again. So I think I have to, I mean, I'm not exactly good at I'm not exactly good at speaking to people, but like I gotta try and make an appeal to her on a level, and like, Kala, I promise you, you do not want to do this. We can find Carnival's End together. You just have to fight through whatever is going on here.
Okay. That sounds like a compel.
Yep. Would we still call this a cult?
Sure.
All right, that's 2d10. Oh, that's a 1 and an 8.
Whew,
I'll take
okay.
it. I will take that. I've never been happier. I rolled that 1 and was like, oh fuck.
So there is like no understanding in her eyes. And when her mouth opens, the voice that's coming out is sort of wheezing. It's like something is trying to make noise through her mouth, but is totally unfamiliar with how the organs work properly. And it's like, you disturbed the meeting. And roll me a d6.
4.
Okay. That is going to be 4 mind stress.
Oh, that's very bad. That's very, very bad.
Yeah.
Oh my, no, that's 8 mind stress. That's not good.
Okay, let's see what happens. That's cocked. Okay. Okay, that's a 2.
That's a bad number to roll, is the thing.
Yeah. So let's see here. Mind stress, mind fallout. Well, the good news is your mind fallout is about to get cleared.
Yep. That's the good news.
Wrong PDF. Ooh.
That's not a noise I like hearing, is the thing.
Ooh. God, these are also good. You have an issue where those echoes of your past, right? That we talked about, like, you're seeing the dinner party. There's the echoes of your death, the future death, and her. But then you also see strange figments of her, like when you were first going on the delve together, and it starts becoming really unclear to you which are the things from your memory, which are the things from your death, and what's happening right now. You know something's wrong, and like instinctively you can think about, how you might, parse through this. The problem is that from a perception standpoint, it all seems equally valid in front of you.
Yeah. I think,
except for one thing.
Yeah.
Which is your death, which you can see it arch an eyebrow at you expectantly.
I think at this moment, I think Pale Green's salvation is going to be leaning into his worst impulses. And I think as he starts to come back to that moment, as he starts to see the knives and the people at the party and those same people being horribly unimpressed by the story of his death, I think that like the thing that happens, the thing that he follows up with that is to kind of stand up, and he takes out his bottle of homemade ambrosia. And he kind of takes a swig of it and like is sloshing it around in the sort of water skin, and is like, I believe the meeting is just about ready to begin. And he starts, he is going to attempt to, I think the thing that he does is start rattling off about this book, half in an attempt to charm, half in an attempt to confuse, but like I think half in an attempt to build some kind of a connection, even if it's a connection in disdain, but like half, like it's so many different things. It's partly a hallucination and partly a calculated filibuster to confuse these knives so that he can buy enough time to escape and figure out what's what. But also he's just really excited to talk about this book with his book club again.
Okay.
And he
Okay.
just starts rattling off details about this book.
Okay. And this is the book that you're looking for? Is this Carnival's End or the book from the book club?
The book, it's got to be Carnival's End now. Like, I think
Okay.
as time and space have warped, I think now he's rattling off about Carnival's End as though he has read it for a book club. And I think he's talking about it about as well as you talk about any book you haven't read for book club, which is to say, pretty solidly.
Yeah, exactly. Like you regurgitate the marketing pitch word for word.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's something like that sounds to me like Compel again.
Okay. Oh, that's a 10.
Whoo. Okay. Wow.
This is a good moment for a 10.
Yeah, it is. So the knives are going to be willing to let you go and let you like leave, and they go back to their meeting. But you tell me what that looks like.
I think that like as I am talking, I think Kala like lowers her arm, and like the knife like no, she doesn't lower her arm. She actually like raises it in a stabbing position and like goes to stab me in the throat and then stops. Like the knife is like the knife like wants to be as close to my throat and my face as possible, and is like, I think that the knives are enraptured. I think that they are listening closely, and like time and space being what it is, right? Everything kind of blurring together. I think this plays very, very nicely. We're about to get real weird with time and space, and it's going to be sick. And I think that the critical hit is, if I may, I think there's a really cool moment to pull from this critical hit. Because I had said a thing that now clicks into place in a really fucking weird and cool way. I think I'm talking, and the knife stops at my throat as I'm regurgitating the story of Carnival's End. And I'm talking about the legend and how it makes people dance and dance. And the knives are listening, and the knives pause, and like the knives are fascinated, right? Like they are, I think kind of, we see them start to like wiggle around and start to like remove from Kala. And the thing that remains, because I can't change the past, is that the other elves are just like, they're like, did you even read the book? We were talking about the poison orchid. What are you even talking about Carnival's End? And the knives are wiggling, and they're so enraptured. Do you remember what I said happened at the end of that party?
Oh my God.
I said there were multiple fatalities.
Oh, that's right.
I think what happens is the knives leave Kala, and like knives just start flying into elves.
That's awesome. I even wrote down multiple fatalities. Wow.
And I think like what happens is like there's this moment, and I think that my death is staring at me, and like the second eyebrow raises. Like it goes from that one eyebrow to like a shocked eyebrow. Is like, the mystery of that night is finally made clear in this weird pseudo out of time, like piercing the gray moment of like something drove their disgust to such a point where they started lashing out at each other and things got violent. And it seems to be like every time somebody made a stab, there's a knife that corresponds to that moment. And I, the whole time, am just giddily reciting the plot to this book until finally the knives fall to the fall to the ground, each having found no, they don't fall, because what happens is weirder. We're going weird with this. This is great. Each of the knives finds an elf, and they all like go and sit around each other and commence all talking to each other in that exact kind of strained learning how organs work way as they start having their meeting, each with this weird spectral memory of a dead elf.
Awesome. I love that. So these knives all do that. Kala slumps to the ground, obviously from her new wounds from the knives that left. She's bleeding again.
And I know that I'm not going to be able to save her. Like, I know this. So what I'm going to do instead is another one of my abilities. I am going to place my hand on her brow. And and call for last rites. When you touch the brow of a recently dead person, you may ask a spirit a single question before it fades away.
Okay. What's your question?
What secret did the knives tell you that can point me in the direction of Carnival's End?
Oh. The Council of Knives, the last host. There's a tent just beyond the trees. And then she expires.
I love it. And I think, like, I take my ritual blade and I plant it in the ground next to her.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I'm like, okay. And I walk past the trees.
So you walk past the trees and you do find this tent. It's leaning to the side. It's barely standing. Like clearly some of the supports have broken. The tent itself is multicolored. Like it's got stripes of like red, yellow, white, blue. And there's a tiny like little flag hanging off the top. But like I said, it's just barely hanging on and the fabric is like parted at the entrance.
And I am going to make my way, like I'm going to part that entrance the rest of the way and peer inside and and see what is waiting for me in this tent.
There's a small, like portable, like stand, like something that you would double as a footstool or like if you're on your knees, use it as a table. In the center there, there's also like strewn, like broken bottles and things like that in here. This tent has clearly been through some stuff. This place was roughed up, but this table has been undisturbed. And sitting on the table is what appears to be it looks like it's about like a compact, like a makeup compact, made of beaten bronze. And next to it is a leather-bound book. Horrible thing among horrible things. You can already tell from the distance that there are some pages that there's like a gap in the center. Like, so somebody's torn out pages. But you can see the cover. And in rather plain script, it says Carnival's End or The End of Pain.
I do a little dance to myself in this moment.
With all the clacking is stuff like that as you're dancing.
Thumping and clacking and clattering. And I go and I remove a book from one of my many like sleeves or pouches that's about the size of Carnival's End, and giving a quick scan to the room to see if I see any like pages that have been scattered around. I'm gonna take it in this this bronze object. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna stash it.
Okay, cool. Do you look at them at all? You're stashing them?
You know, as much as I think this is the moment where as much as Pale Green wanted to present as the cool enlightened horror fan earlier, I think this is the moment where at a certain point a character in a horror story has to walk through that door, and I think this is the moment where he flips through those pages. Okay.
So you flip open those pages. There is a section in there titled on the Carnival Dance, and there seems to be an elaborate set of rituals there, like the kind of thing that, like, just the materials alone would take a month to gather. And that's if you had like unlimited money to spend to have, and merchants available. But book 2 catches your attention, and that is The End of Pain. And when you flip it open to that page, there's a very simple prescription: to go to the carnival and see the great clown Pagliacci.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? I think that
can you give me a final scene as we end our session?
Yeah, I think that what happens is I think it's just cackling outside of the tent, as I think that is just at sweating and bloodied and broken, seeing that and just cackling, laughing half with the understanding that like he is not getting out of here, right? Like half
Yeah.
with the understanding that like getting here was luck.
Yeah.
But I think that what happens, the thing that we see is he is laughing and he's sitting and he's like showing that book, and we see that as he sees it, past and present and future and life and death are still all blurring together, and inside that tent are 13 elves with knives in their guts, and Kala and Martin and thrushes in the meadow, and his brother and his father and like all of these people as he's like showing them the page and like screaming and laughing. And I think that like he is, with, like I said, the implicit knowledge that he's probably not getting out here, but like finally getting the thing that he wanted, which was to shove this in everyone's face that like did him wrong in this hallucination, maybe memory, maybe echo of their death that may or may not be tied to these hateful knives. Like, just get, like, his dance is like rolling on the floor, ingloriously laughing at this as we pan out from the tent. And that is game.
Yeah. Thank you so much for playing with me.
This kicked ass. This was great. Oh, this ruled. This was everything that I wanted and then some. That was fantastic.
I love this setting so much. It's so bizarre.
It's so cool and weird, and like you did such a good job of making it cool and weird. And like I know that like in the book, you know, the intro from Grant and Chris, it says like, we've pretty much just like left it up for you. So like, I appreciate you really bringing the energy and making it cool and weird and interesting. It kicked ass.
Yeah, it was so much fun. I had so much fun with your character. I loved it.
Now this is where I reveal my hand, which is, I had originally just been like, oh, the Dead Walker is a really cool concept. Like, you had told me the premise that we were looking for this book, and I was like, that's a really neat thing if he's a Dead Walker that woke up. And then as soon as I read through the questions and it was like your family was ruined with a faux pas, I went, well, there's only one direction I can take with this, and there is really like only one fictional character that I can pull energy from, and I'm glad that we got a Pagliacci joke in there, because this means that with High Elven Fraser Crane, like I got all of the Jeff Stormer beats into the episode.
Excellent. That's what we're here for.
I'm very happy. Thank you so much for playing this with me. Before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Andrlik. That's ANDRLIK. I also infrequently write things at andrlik.org, which is the same spelling. And most importantly, you can listen to my actual play podcast where we play Numenera, but we've also done diversions like playing Heart and things like that. And that's at Explorers Wanted on Twitter or explorerswanted.fm on the web.
Thank you so much for playing this with me. I'm still beaming about this. This kicked ass. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Daniel for coming on to the show. I could not be happier with that game. That ruled. That was funny and scary, and I legitimately cannot believe that our last episode of 2022, that we ended our year with a goddamn Great Clown Pagliacci joke. I could not be happier about this. I did not plan it that way, but it worked out in such a way that I could not be happier. Anyway, be sure to check out Explorers Wanted at explorerswanted.fm. Be sure to head to rowanrookandacard.com to check out Heart, the City Beneath. And be sure to follow Daniel on Twitter, I guess for now, at Andrlik, ANDRLIK. Then, if you want to keep up with the show, there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can follow us on Twitter, again, for now, at Party of One Pod. You can head to partyofonepod.tumblr.com to follow us on Tumblr. You can follow us on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. You can also join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Or I guess you could follow us on Facebook, but like, why? If you'd like to support the show, you can head to patreon.com/JeffStormer or Ko-fi.com/JeffStormer and support the show financially. You can leave us a nice review on Spotify, iTunes, or Podchaser. You can tell a friend about the show. You can rave about the show on social media. You can buy a t-shirt at bit.ly/partyofonemerch, merch, or you can sign up for our newsletter at buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast. And then after all of that, if you want to listen to some more great podcasts, check out All My Fantasy Children at oneshotpodcast.com. That's a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast where my best friend Aaron Catano Saez and I take a listener-submitted prompt and spin it into an original fantasy character. Or check out Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast at tinyurl.com/Yazeba's podcast. That's a slice of life actual play about a heartless witch, a quiet house, and all the many people making their lives inside. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, press coverage of the show, or about coming onto the show as a guest, email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And finally, before we wrap up, one final update from present me. Hey everybody, Twitter's not doing great. So, in case it stops being a thing and you follow the show on Twitter where you get updates about the show, here are a few other places you can follow the show just in case. We are on TikTok at Party of One Podcast. We've launched a show Tumblr at partyofonepod.tumblr.com. Or you can head to buttondown.email/partyofonepodcast and sign up for our newsletter, where we'll be sharing new episodes, behind-the-scenes stuff, award nominations, all that kind of thing. Those are all the ways that you can keep up with the show in case Twitter stops being a thing, like, in a week or whatever. Relatedly, if you are interested in coming on the show as a guest and you don't have a pressing need, like if you have a Kickstarter or something, please email us. But like if you're just kind of like, hey, I'd like to play a game at some point, it doesn't need to be now, it doesn't need to be soon, just some point, head to partyofonepodcast.com. We also reopened our guest application form. Again, if Twitter stops being a thing, I don't want to lose the ability to like interact with people, engage interest in guests. So if you're interested, that's where to go. And, unless I am mistaken, I believe that is all we do here, so until the Christmas special, until 2023, thank you as always for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.